I'm so excited that I get to introduce the moderator for this next panel because this panel is going to be so awesome for you to see the bleeding edge of event tech, but moderated by one of my favorite people who was one of my first events industry people I ever met here in Vegas. She came up to me and goes, "You're Will Curran." I was like, someone knows who I am? And since then, she is the #1 connector. She knows everybody, including every event technology that you got to know about. Everybody, let's welcome Dalia Elgazar to lead the next panel.
You are the Will Curran.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of Event Tech Live Las Vegas. Year 1, actually, because London's year 10, so we're kind of lucky to be here. And I am super excited to have our panelists come on up. I feel like it's going to be a game show, and we're going to do it. So come on up. Now, we're going to be talking about something that everybody is always challenged and worried about, and I mean worried, where event profs, even event technology companies, they sort of see it all the time. It's the challenge of growth, whether it is with audience, with leads, with revenue, with engagement, everything. But we are here with the best of the best companies, and they're going to give us what the secret sauce is. I'm putting you on the, yeah, they're like, what? Before lunch and dinner and drinks. What the secret sauce is to growth. So we're going to get started. Lisa, I'm going to start with you. Let's talk about growth metrics. How do you describe growth metrics and what your clients should focus on when you are talking to them, especially in the strategy phase?
Gosh, so metrics. I'm with Meet You. We are a virtual first event platform. So as you all know, in the virtual world, you can count everything. So we've got metrics galore. It makes it a little hard. We were talking just before, right? We don't want it to be vanilla metrics, but sometimes those are the ones that matter. So when I think about growth with my customers, if we make an assumption that it's about people, so people is going to be more members, more paying people for your event, more employees who are engaged. It's about getting those people to interact with you and your content. So metrics are going to be some of the basic vanilla ones. How many people showed up? But it's really about what did they do. So if I know everything they did and I can start counting and tracking those things, I'm going to be able to get great ROIs. So for me, it's thinking about the engagement and knowing at the strategy phase, as you asked, that profile. What is it? Is it about a lead? Is it about a happy employee? Is it association member engagement? So that's what it really is for me.
Perfect. Rakesh, do you want to pipe in from your perspective?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Rakesh Antala from Evenify. We provide end-to-end hybrid event management platform to cover every aspects of event, from pre-event, which includes marketing, registration, ticketing, badge printing, during event experiences, exhibitor management, and even post-event. So when we deal with exhibitors or even the event hosts and managers, they no longer just talk about how can I get more exhibitors or how can I get more exhibitor revenue. Now they talk about, like Lisa said, how can I make it more interactive, bring in more user experiences, and how do I track it so that my next event could be much better, and therefore drive more exhibitor revenue, bring more let's say more targeted exhibitors. So through the data points, I would know exactly what would interest the attendees. So overall, I think it's more driving towards how can I bring the more ROI, not just for myself, but for the exhibitors, as well as how can I bring more experience for the attendees.
Perfect. So Taylor, from your perspective, when it comes to growth, I'm going to pick on you. How do you measure growth on adoption from an internal team at a company?
So growth is obviously measured just kind of like we talked about from mainly an ROI standpoint, but also a customer, I think, experience standpoint. So as long as the attendees, I think, obviously when it comes to our customers being planning organizers and such, they really only care about the attendee experience. Obviously, they're doing a lot of things behind the scenes that's making them, go crazy and run all over the place. But really, that attendee experience is really what matters. Yeah. So we always try and to piggyback along the lines of metrics and such and analytics. We always try and piggyback on how many people are engaged with the app. How are they engaged with the mobile app? How are they engaged with the exhibitors? What kind of sponsorships are actually being taken advantage of? What level of sponsorships are being taken advantage of? And we create these metrics to be able to have them not only year over year, but also event over event. Mm-hmm. We also try to follow along the trends of the industry as well and kind of piggyback on what similar customers in the industry or similar customers of ours are doing and try and encourage our other customers to follow along those same trends to obviously help promote growth within their own events. So.
Perfect. Vinu, from your perspective with Ava, when it comes to engagement, what is like growth metrics that you think are missed when it comes to clients? And when you share it with them, they're like, oh my God, never thought of that before.
So I'm Vinu Deschetti. I'm the CEO and founder of EVA Event Tech Hub, and we see a lot. So we're a virtual platform. And what I say is we're a microsite on steroids. We do a lot of engagement. And behind that, and the secret sauce is all of the data, all the behavior that's happening. And in terms of what they're missing is, we specialize in associations, and we often hear from planners, well, my board says I should do topics on this, this, and this. And they're going off of what a board says. Board is experienced, they know the industry, but they're going off of their gut. Now, with metrics, whether it's past metrics or metrics that you're going to collect, you actually have the opportunity to go back to your board and say, well, yes, you're right. The data shows that people are interested in certain sessions, but not only by registering for those sessions, but attending and engaging with the content, not only in session, but out of session as well. So it's that what information that you can take back, not based on your gut, but actually having the metrics there to show them.
Perfect. Nick, I'm going to pick on you next. When it comes to growth, what do you see as a missed opportunity or missed metric that's rocky road, not vanilla?
Rocky Road, okay. Hi, I'm Nick. I'm Chief Product Officer at Gather, and we're an event management platform delivering sort of exceptional meeting experience, richly creative hybrid events, and everything in between. So missed opportunities. I mean, so a lot of the clients we work with tend to be large corporates, like blue chip companies, as well as on the agency side. And what we're seeing is everyone's good at sort of the scheduling side when it comes to, say, in-person meetings. We've got these beautiful apps, everything's nicely sort of ordered, you know where you're going. But that's great. Having a lot of meetings doesn't mean you've had a successful event. So understanding what's the utilization of those meeting rooms? How well have you designed your space? Have all the rooms been used? But not only that, like looking at the sales team and saying, okay, what's the deal value that was discussed in those meeting rooms? How many dollars were in this particular room? And, were we putting the right resource into the right meetings across our events? And so those kind of metrics really define success, not just having the nice shiny tech, but having data which is usable and actually using that not just after the event for next year, but during the event, shaking things up, changing things as you go through.
Well, because you have the data at your fingertips, so you can actually change the event almost on the fly, which could give any event organizer a heart attack.
Yeah, 100%. But it doesn't mean, going in a spreadsheet and shifting stuff around and pasting it on the wall. You're doing stuff on an app really quickly, shifting something across, or even just walking up to a meeting room, seeing some nice digital signage and saying, this room's free. I can have an ad hoc session in here, quickly press a code to sign in and off you go. Yeah. So it's like that instant reaction, which drives the data, which
you're
makes
being
it usable.
proactive too.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Pratik, from your side, what do you see is a growth metric that your clients kind of miss?
So I just like to share a general trend. So we attend events, we study the events from an event perspective. Mm-hmm. But what most of our clients and what the industry in general at large is missing right now is a macro perspective of how did we do better when compared to last year, right? You mentioned ETL London has been in its 10th year, right? are you having discussions internally about how was it the first year and how did we grow along those 10 years, right? So when it comes to metrics, especially growth metrics, one value proposition that we're offering through our software is the ability to track every single attendee along their journey, right?
Wonderful.
For example, let's take my participation at ETL. If you study my customer profile, if you're using the same platform, of course, would you be able to derive insights if you have information about Pratik attended 10 consecutive ETLs? Does that make me a special attendee? Does that create opportunities for you to create a delightful experience for attendees?
Yep.
On the other hand, another missed opportunity is there are customers who might have attended your 9th edition of ETL, but then, hey, they didn't show up on the 10th edition. What happened? Did they submit a feedback form? Was it a negative feedback? So these are some missing loopholes, primarily to do with strategy, primarily to do with perspective of how you measure events. So we have to zoom out a bit. We have to look at the overall journey of our attendees. We have to look at growth in terms of how did we do better compared to the previous event and how can we make the next event better.
Perfect. So it's story time. Who would like to share a client story that went from, or that you took them from point A to point B and just share like the growth story of a client? You don't have to name the client. Don't want to, we don't need to do that. You can just like paint the picture of the profile. It was an association, it was an event of 5,000 people, or maybe it was at 500 and then it was at 5,000 people kind of thing. Anybody want to share a story? Yeah. Do you know?
Yeah. So one of the great things about all of our technologies is we do integrations, and there's great platforms that do great things out there, and it's a matter of bringing them all together. We've had an association come to us and say they want to do 7 integrations. And we're like, okay, that sounds like a lot. Let's actually go through that process. Why do you want to do the integrations? And understanding not only why, but how does that drive not only the attendee experience, but also planner experience and also the end results for data. So actually going through the process of saying, okay, so you want to do a speaker management system integration, but why? Is it just because you want to have ease of transferring that data over? But do you have, do you do your call for papers and abstracts at a certain point and you're done? And then do you really need to have an instant sync because information's already done? So walking them through that process. So we actually went from 7 integrations. Yes, we can charge for every integration and make money, but that doesn't always mean that it's the best thing to do.
Right.
So like walking through that process of figuring out that, but also looking at the data, what data is actually relevant to not only tell you about the picture of the event that's happening, but also for the organization to be successful.
Perfect. And it's actually almost you're like a sounding board for them. So you have those event planners that are rock stars that just need validation that they're on the right path, or they need you to help them sell that conversation to the C-suite. Let's change the dates of the abstracts that could give someone else another heart attack internally because they're used to doing this a certain way in a certain date, et cetera, right?
And there's also other people, external within the organization, but outside of the events department.
Right.
Oh, like a ED that says,
programming.
oh, let's do this because it's the latest and greatest. But
Or
latest
a
and greatest.
committee.
Yeah. Oh, board members. We love our board members.
Oh, don't we? Yes. They deserve Rocky Road.
Rocky Road.
Yes.
Yep. The whipped cream. Yes.
Anybody else want to share a story?
Sure, I'll go ahead. So, so we work with a great business called WBCSD, the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, which is a bit of a mouthful. Just took a while to get that one out in one go. But we help them basically deliver their global program of events, and started working with them during COVID when they'd gone from pure in-person before the pandemic to just pure virtual during the pandemic. They'd really tried to do something quite basic and more sort of webinar driven at the beginning, and decided, you know what, we deliver this event to a sort of select group of Fortune 500 CEOs. They're sort of members. They're really high profile. We need to take this up a notch. So we've worked with them in collaboration, not necessarily just feeding them ideas, but working with their events team to say, okay, what does a successful virtual hybrid event look like? How do we engage people in the room in an engaging way that means not only are you delivering your talks, your plenary sessions, your breakouts, but helping members network, helping them build a community that lasts year round, not just saying hi a month before the event and then turning the tap off right afterwards, you know. And so we've developed like metaverse applications. We've looked at crowd engagement. We've got a live stream commentary booth nowadays. We've got plenary sessions with rich engagement. And we've really taken them to the next level in terms of delivering those events on a sort of global scale, to the point now where they have as many people joining virtually as they have in person, an event which was in the past purely a sort of physical thing. So it's been a good journey with them.
That's perfect. Well, you sort of blew up their business model too, in a way, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. And I think for a business like that, which relies heavily on that face-to-face networking moment, the sort of the glamour of being in these cool locations, you know, they go to Montreal, they go to Tokyo, they've been Chicago and Dubai next year. Like, you've got a really high bar to meet to make that virtual experience as enticing and as interesting, you know? So to justify the ticket prices, justify that membership, you need to deliver something pretty spectacular.
Very true. Very true. Anyone else have a story?
Yep.
For it.
So I'd like to share a few stories. So I'm from India, and we worked with several government organizations to host their events. So when we met them, they shared experiences of how they used a Google form for registrations, which did not have any means to collect payment. So once someone submits a form, you email them and say, hey, here's my bank account. Why don't you make the wire transfer?
Oh, wow.
So we were in a process of that digital transformation from a simple paper form or an online form. They went completely digital through our ticketing registration platform. And talking about the government events, so right now in India, there are about 250 G20 events happening in India right now. And we've powered with almost about 10% of G20 events happening in India.
Because you put efficiencies in place
Yeah.
too,
So
right?
in terms of, yeah.
And secure. It's more secure
It's
now than
more
just
secure.
an email?
And you don't trust the government so easily, right? Because you know for a fact that if you're submitting a form, and especially if it's a government agency, you're going to think twice. Are they going to misuse it? Are they going to sell it? Right? So trying to make their platform secure has been one of our biggest success stories in India.
Perfect. Lisa.
Thank you. Yeah, so at Meet You, one of our key customers I want to talk about is the Conferences for Women. And they host 4 major conferences, Texas, California, Massachusetts, and I'm going to forget where else right now. But pre-COVID, right, they were all in person. And they've been on such an interesting journey when I think about growth. They had to go virtual. They did it very successfully. What they found out over multiple years of doing virtual, and then this year going back to in-person, is that people that are attending have grown dramatically. So of course we all know reach, but what's fascinating is if I have the Conference for Women in Texas, it is a very regional conference. They've been able to track, so metrics over time, that the individuals attending virtually have never attended an in-person. So they're getting that exponential reach. They're not even near, say, Texas. And then as they've started to move back to in-person and they're really growing those in-person conferences more, they're now able to take the virtual attendees that they've gathered and get those people to attend the in-person. So people now are a little more likely to maybe get on a plane because I'm part of the Texas community, even though I may not live around Texas. I have an affinity. So for me, it's really about using virtual to often take your attendees on a journey and help them be a part of that community and then pay to attend your in-person. And I think that's the growth I love to see.
Yeah. If anybody has any questions in the audience, please feel free to ask the old-fashioned way, shout it out, you know, or the new way of putting it in the app, whatever you want. We would love to have any questions or comments or even growth examples that you have within your organization as well. Anybody else have stories?
Yeah, I'll chime in with us. Bravura, my company has been around 16 years and in the event industry. And one of the reason why we've been around for 16 years is because we value our partnerships. We value our relationships. So obviously through those 16 years, we've seen the ebbs and flows of the industry. We've seen the changes. We've seen the gone virtual to back to in person, so on and so forth. But it's nice to even be here in an event like this where you have some of your most valued customers come up to you and say how unique you are as a company because of the things that we do for them. And reason being is because we like to collaborate with our customers and listen to them. We like to attend their events ourselves to be able to see what areas we can help improve, whether it be we go to an event and then they pre-print badges and they have lines outside the door. So we obviously need to do kiosks. We have ways that they're not getting Q&A and live polling within their app. So we want to make sure that they're engaging with their audience or whatever the case is. We want to make sure that people are getting all their CEU tracking done so they could be able to print their certificates by themselves. So we really value the relationships in our customers to make sure that we're collaborating as a whole to make sure that the attendee experience is matched.
Perfect. All right. So next question is about money.
Oh.
Name 3 ways that either you have found revenue streams for your clients or have grown revenue streams that already existed for your clients. This could be storytelling as well, but just 3 quick ways that you've done that for your client. Lisa, you want to try?
Sure. Let's see. One of them, I made notes. Can I look at my notes? Look, I had 3 things.
I knew you made notes.
So for me, it's again, so I see people making more money when they can, again, if you're primarily doing in-person events, people that are savvy, that figure out how to build in a hybrid strategy, meaning not synchronous hybrid events, asynchronous hybrid, where you actually can have virtual events that get people to know your community, kind of like I was just mentioning, and pay more money to come to in-person events. That's 1. 2, I think it's about figuring out how you can weave in some virtual elements where you have an opportunity to, say, charge for junior association members who aren't going to get a travel budget, but they're going to pay to attend something different virtually. So thinking about growth minded, how can you create more money by tying in that virtual? And number 3 just left my head. So
Give Rocky Road ice cream. Like,
exactly.
come on.
It's all about Rocky Road ice cream. I like that.
No, that's great. I think there's huge incentives where you have a face-to-face audience. And I know a lot of organizers try to do blended events. I do not say the H word often. Half and half. I'm going to try it. Half and half is a good one. But there's ways where you can blend revenue streams with your face-to-face and then digital events between your face-to-face events. So it becomes sort of like almost like a revenue continuum across different events as throughout a portfolio. Does that make sense?
Yes. And you maybe remember that 3rd point. It's the whole thing about repurposing content. So if you're going to have this event, like we're recording this session.
Yes.
So everybody always record your sessions and do something with it. There is a revenue stream to be made when you tie in virtual in between your physical events, for sure.
Perfect.
And it's not only about just taking the video and getting clips out of it, although that's an easy way, right? But how many times, especially at medical conferences or scientific conferences, people go to attend to learn something, and then they go back home and they're like, oh, I have so many more questions. I met so many great people, but they're gone. They're not in the ballroom anymore. So how do you go about engaging with them afterwards?
Mm-hmm.
So creating those networking opportunities, whether it can be as simple as a Zoom event, right? Like a Zoom meeting where you get people together.
Breakout
or if you have
rooms.
a breakout rooms.
Yep.
But it doesn't even have to be at that event, right?
Right.
It can be afterwards. Meet the speaker, meet the authors. We love those kind of events.
Yeah. Perfect. Any more?
Yeah.
Rakesh?
Yeah, like we said, we look at it from pre-event opportunities, during event opportunities, and the post-event. What Venu just said was the post-event opportunities of how do you create the communities and or interactions even after the event is over. During the pre-event, of course, you need to deploy as many promoting options and, such as Snowball and other, let's say integrations, how you could promote your event much more than what you would do it without any, tools at hand. Of course, during the event, you want to have ways for your exhibitors to get more footfall to your footfall to the stalls, and how you can make them get as many leads as possible through lead capture. I mean, you'd be surprised how many events don't even have lead scanners, in the events.
Yep. Perfect.
Yep.
Pratik?
So I'd like to twist your question a bit.
Do it.
Most of our customers ask us, how can I save money by hosting an event? So that's a very interesting question
That's a
as
good
well.
one.
So our recommendation and our approach has been that we try to help our customers be more efficient, right? Because when you're efficient, you're saving time and you're saving money, right? We keep talking about marketing automation, but are we really talking about event automation, right? Look at the journey of an attendee, right? When they're purchasing your ticket, when they're purchasing a ticket to attend your event, they might have some questions. They might drop you an email, they might call you. Can we automate some of that journey by having a chatbot on your website? Yep. Look at interactions with the exhibitors.
Yep.
Right? You send dozens of emails to exhibitors saying, submit this form, submit this logo here, upload this here, make sure you're collecting your badge here. There are a dozen email communications. How can you leverage ChatGPT to automate some of those content
You're
for those
stepping
emails?
on another session all together right now. So yes.
So
Part
yeah. So
two.
how do you
Yep.
save money? Efficiency and automation.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Anyone else? Nick?
I've got three for you, but I'm going to cheat. It's simple. It's time, and time. Like the number one thing we don't have in the events industry is event managers, event
Anybody.
organizers.
Any human?
Yeah, exactly.
Right
It's
now.
time. So whatever you can do to save the people you work for's time, then you're winning, right? So how do we do that? From a content perspective, it's great having all these platforms out there. There's so many rich opportunities to kind of deliver great content, but you've got to have that content in the first place, right? You've got to build something first to fill the empty slots. It's like having a beautiful storefront, in a great location on the Strand. If you don't have the goods to put in there, then you're not going to entice anyone. So having tools which allow you to kind of generate content in a rapid way, whether that's creating video content with AI tools or generating copy for follow-up emails or for pages, again through using things like GPT, I think that is a massive way that you can save people time. Another way is around the time you spend running around in an event environment. So if you're looking at an event where you've got like 100 salespeople, they're working across 20 rooms, they've got 1,000 meetings booked across the week, like the time it takes to track people down, to find them, to communicate with them, to share information across the event is a real problem. It takes a lot of effort to do that, and you end up with pretty sore feet at the end of it. So having the ability to have tools which let you message people, let you sort of share instant updates, have notifications on your phones when you need to contact people, all of those things come together to save people time, and that's the number one priceless thing you can do for clients.
Well, I think time is the new currency. And so, and it's something that I think, in my opinion, and we do this a lot with our clients where, how are you marketing or promoting your event in regards to time spent pre, during, and post event? What's in it for them? What are they going to get out of it? And how much time they're going to spend? Because it truly is the currency of our era right now. Everybody's juggling, everybody's trying to do more with less. And if you are able to communicate that, whether it's for exhibitors or whether it's for attendees or even for speakers, time is money, as they say, but it is the new currency. So I think it's something that should be forefront for event organizers. I would go a step further where I actually think that event organizers should take a look at all their different personas that they touch. First timers, students, 10 timers. Those are the ones that have been there for 10. I don't mean anything about age, but, and then you take a look at like what their goals are at an event, whether it's virtual, whether it's face-to-face, and actually put some sort of time frame to it. How much time would it take them to go around an exhibit hall? And like, what do they want to achieve from it? And what is the emotion that's attached to it? Because right now, all the events and all the content have to have some sort of emotional connection to it in order for it to resonate and to be actionable. So that's my take.
Yeah, time is something that us as a company, we talk to our customers about pretty much all day, every day. Piggybacking off of Nick, I mean, one of the things we talk about is just having a comprehensive streamlining solution that's able to encompass everything that technology can when it comes to their event. Obviously, a lot of people that we talk to, or a lot of associations, a lot of corporations piecemeal out their different pieces of technology. And by doing so, if you're not doing integrations, you're obviously importing, exporting. Not all the data is called the same in one report as it is in another system. So having that comprehensive solution obviously streamlines a lot of time. You're not having to call exhibitors every single day, like you mentioned. You don't have to, we talked about badge printing, not having to wait in line and pre-print badges. There's so many associations I know that spend weeks and weeks pre-printing badges. They do 4,000 badges pre-printed. It's crazy to me to go through that process, but just streamlining that time really helps out to be able, technology is something that they shouldn't have to think about. They should be worrying about a lot of other aspects of their conference or of their event. And so for us to be able to streamline that process, I think really helps out.
Perfect. Want to add on, Vinu?
One more thing.
Yeah.
There are a couple of statistics. One, meeting planning jobs is the 5th most stressful job.
Actually, it jumped to 3 or
Did
1.
it?
I thought it was second.
I thought it was 1.
Well, I'm outdated. Regardless, right? So that says something, right? Like, what can we do, especially with technology, to relieve some of that stress, right? The other thing is, I saw a statistic that said through automation, you can save 225 hours.
What would you
Through
do with that?
That's 30. When you calculate that to like actual person staff hour, like to monetize it, that's $30,000 a year.
Crazy.
What could you do with $30,000, right?
I don't know. Rent an island and just eat ice cream.
Rocky Road?
Rocky Road. You guys got that. There you go.
There you go.
I know you get your budget back, right? Not only in time and sanity,
Yeah.
but actually money.
But imagine when you actually share statistics like that with your clients to scare the crap out of them. And then you come in with, but I got you. Like, I got you from a solution perspective, from expertise, all of that, I'm having a feeling that even post-Corona coaster, where we're at right now, event professionals are having a harder time just thinking without a fog, because they're being asked to do more faster now to make up for the time they lost. They think they lost, and to make up for the money they lost. So anyway, so island and ice cream, I would invite all of you, just saying. So we have one more question. So this question is, give advice in regards to or use examples, like where do you see event organizers having challenges that actually make them prevent the growth that they want? How do they become their own challenge or their own obstacle? How do you talk them out of that? Oh, here we go.
I mean, we come across these stories all the time where event organizers think that, okay, this is the module, we can do it in-house, right? So, they start taking piece by piece and they start, creating something in-house, which they're not expert at. And when they launch the event and start the registrations, and few weeks before the, event, everything just breaks apart. And then you get this SOS message saying that, hey, you've been talking to us and we have been avoiding you, but can you please save us? Right. So,
and usually it's the night before an event, right?
Yes, a few days before. And I mean, we've faced these challenges, and apparently, I mean, that's something that I guess as the event industry is evolving and associations are more open to look at end-to-end stressless solutions like us, and hopefully it will, get a better, as the time goes, the adoption.
So that's maybe where we should call the Tech2grow collective area the stressless collective, right? Again, tech therapy, that's what we do, right, Will? Yep. Okay. Nick?
Yeah, sure. I think another really interesting one is around how can you sort of take new technology that you've adopted in, new tools, which on paper do all the things you need them to do, but there's always got to be a sort of a learning curve into how to implement those and how to use them. It's all very well adopting new stuff, but change management in a big business, especially a big organization, whether it involves hundreds or thousands of people, is one of the most challenging things to solve, you know. So for a business like ours at Gather, you know, one of our huge challenges is how do you quickly onboard a new client? How do you give them the tools they need? How do you encourage them to come to those sessions or to provide them in a way which is going to be accessible and useful to people who really have no time, as we just said, who are super stressed and who have loads of other stuff to worry about, you know, and obviously the better you sort of onboard people before events and the better sort of customer success or customer service teams you have in place, the more success those customers are going to see at their events and the less panic there's going to be last minute when they're like, oh man, how do we do this? We didn't look at this bit of a tutorial.
I forgot something.
So encouraging that onboarding period, I think, is a really key thing, you know.
Perfect. Anyone else?
Yeah, so I actually teach a class for PCMA on event measurement and analytics. And one of the first things that we do, we ask the students, what data should you collect? And everyone names every possible field that they could possibly collect. Then they talk about every single goal, anything that's possible. And basically, we end up with like a whiteboard with hundreds and hundreds of what is not going to be productive. And so the message I give back to our students is keep it simple. Don't try to do it all. Just really focus in on what your major KPIs are for your organization or for that event, and focus on those things. But also just keep it simple.
Perfect advice. Anyone else?
Yep. So I'd like to add that. So event planning takes a lot of time, right? I mean, planning a good event would easily take about 6 months and sometimes even a year. A missed opportunity for the industry is that they tend to loop in partners very late into the journey. They get into the drawing board, they start planning, they say they need an event app, they need an engagement session, they need networking, they need hosted buyers, but then they don't talk to the solution providers to understand how can we make it better, right? And there are also some preconceived notions. So like Nick pointed out, so some customers might miss planning for some aspects of the event and they realize that, oh, it's probably too late now. It's not too late. Talk to us. It's technology. It's something that we can do in a reasonable amount of time. So most of the modules that we have today can be deployed in a couple of weeks. Even if it's building an event app, it's all a template. We can build an app in 2 weeks. But the preconceived notion that it's too late and the notion that I'll bring in vendors only when it's time is something that we'll have to really look at.
Definitely. I think agility is going to be the name of the game going forward, but not from the technology side. It's from the organizer side.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It is being agile. And I think it's interesting when we think about challenges, right? Just an event like this, there are so many great technologies that can support growth and can support change and can support being agile. And there's so many great services, right? At Meet You, we offer a platform and then we have tons of service offered on top of it. I think often some of the challenges that get in the way is fear, right? So we have specific for virtual events, there's a lot of fear even now around, well, if I tell people there's a virtual, they might not come to my in-person. So there's somebody in the organization that starts to think that and we get worried. And then there's a fear of maybe I don't have the expertise to really execute. I had to do these things before. Can I really dig in? I talked yesterday to someone about this, the role of the event technologist. Again, you think about where technology can enable and hopefully take away that fear. And then kind of the third thing for me thinking about that is it's really, really easy to kind of fall back to status quo. So we're all back. It's awesome. We're here in person. It's sometimes easy to go back to our comfort zone. Yeah. So I think it's about being agile, but pushing. So the whole event community, event tech, event profs, like pushing to get through that fear. And let's just keep like trying this new stuff because this event is proof there's some awesome things out there.
Perfect.
Yeah, one of the things that I always tell my customers or even prospective customers to do, speaking upon fear, is to go shop around and actually go see what kind of technology is out there and actually see, instead of falling back into your old ways, falling back into the old technology that you used for 30 years. Typically, people have, once again, gone through the virtual and hybrid days, if they're not still in them, and be able to see I had to use technology at one point. Maybe they used a technology company that they just had to jump into at the last moment. Maybe they didn't have a great experience. Maybe they're still scrambling around. It's all about, once again, eliminating that fear, being able to tell them to do their due diligence, ask the right questions, say what's most important when it comes to their events, what's the most important to them on the back end, also their attendees on the front end. And they'll be able to find a great company like one of ours to be able to accomplish one of those things for them.
I think you are all spot on. One thing that we tell our clients as well is not only should they shop around for the technology, they should actually shop around for the ideas that they see, whether it's, at different shows or, oh my God, South by Southwest, someone got on stage and did their whole presentation via AI. We can't do that for our, speakers because they're a certain age group. That does not count. But come back to a designer or come back to you guys and say, here's our lookbook of ideas that we would love to have. Tell us how we can do it. And I'm sure once you sit at the table as a strategist, as a creative idea igniter, which by the way is my title, not yours, that's where, you can then come say, we have the technology or we know someone that can help you do it. And that lessens that fear. So thank you, everyone, for being on this rocky road panel with me and for being part of the Tech2grow collective. And I think it's almost lunchtime, which is fantastic. So, and thank you, Will.
Thank you guys so much. Everyone, let's give a big round of applause for our collective.